welcome to the Punctuation with Conjunctions 1 mini lesson. Okay, let's start with slide 1. Let's tackle the fanboys, which are actually called coordinating conjunctions because they coordinate two independent clauses. And remember, independent clauses are groups of words with subjects and verbs that express a complete thought. In other words, that stand alone. Fanboys coordinate them or show the relationship between them. Here they are at the bottom of the first slide: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. That's all the coordinating conjunctions. The thing to remember is that when you join two independent clauses with a fanboys, you must put a comma after the first clause. Like right here, Luke will wash your car, comma, fanboys, and, second complete thought, I will find you the perfect air freshener. By the way, there's not a space between the last letter of the first clause and the comma. Here's some that show that, but without the space. Liam wants to get ice cream, comma, but I'm in the mood for a salad. Or either the barber will trim my hair, comma, or my cousin will have to. So if you join two independent clauses with a fanboys, you must have a comma. If you join two independent clauses with a comma, you must have a fanboys. They go together. If you want to replace them, you can put a semicolon in there. All right, slides 2, 3, and 4 pretty much give new examples, but they're the same thing, so I won't go over those. Slide 5, we come to the swabbies, which are actually called subordinating conjunctions, since they turn an independent clause into a subordinate or dependent clause by preventing it from making a complete thought. So here's an example. John missed the bus, complete thought. He overslept, complete thought. Both of those stand on their own. But when you put the subordinating conjunction before the second clause, if the second clause is now, because he overslept, that doesn't make any sense on its own. It does not stand alone anymore. It's now subordinate or dependent on the other clause. You always have to have at least one independent clause. Okay, here are some swabbies at the bottom of the slide: since, when, after, because, and if. There's many more of them. This is just a selection of some of the more common ones. The main thing to remember, though, about the punctuation of joint incidents with swabbies is that if the swabby is in the middle of the sentence, no punctuation is needed between the clauses. Like this one: Gloria jumped up and down on the bed after she ate 10 sugar cubes. It's in the middle. It's before the second clause, so no punctuation, no comma. If the clause that begins with the swabby is the first clause, like in this one, the second sentence here, you do have to put a comma between the first and second clauses. So if I get good grades, the swabby's at the beginning, if I get good grades, my uncle will buy me a bike. You noticed when I was speaking, I did pause between grades and my. You naturally do. The comma indicates a pause. You don't pause in the sentence before between bed and after, so you don't need a comma. All right, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 9 are just repeats, new examples, but no new information. So we're going to move on to Thamos on slide 10. Again, I always want to say Thanos, like the Marvel villain, but it is Thamos. They're actually called conjective adverbs because they are conjunctions, but they also serve as adverbs, answering the questions when, where, how, or why for a verb. Here they are at the bottom, or some of them at the bottom, but this is only a partial list again. There are many more. The thing to remember about punctuation and Thamos is that when the Thamo comes between two independent clauses, you put a semicolon before it and a comma after it. So you got two complete thoughts here. Will forgot it was Halloween, and his teacher's mask confused him. If you put therefore in the middle of them, you have to put a semicolon before it, right after the first clause, and you have to put a comma after it to separate it from the second clause. Now, the trick is, if the Thamo is not between two independent clauses, but it's inside one of them, then you surround it with commas. Between two independent clauses, semicolon before, comma after. In the middle of a complete thought or in the middle of an independent clause, Benjamin painted the fence, an independent clause. Second independent clause, I, and you stick the meanwhile in between. So it's I, comma, meanwhile, comma, made lemonade. Between two clauses, semicolon, comma. Middle of a clause, comma, comma. All right, skip again. These are just new examples, nothing new. Come down to slide 14. All right, up until this point, we've been talking about using conjunctions to join clauses, but now we're going to show other uses for conjunctions. Specifically, the fanboys and or, in addition to joining clauses, can also join subjects when a clause has more than one subject, and sometimes it does. If you look at this, Larry and Gary went to the musical together. Two subjects, Larry and Gary. One verb, went, but two subjects, you join them with and. When you do this, you do not need a comma. Joining subjects, you do not need a comma. Joining clauses, independent clauses, you do need a comma, not for subjects. All right, just next slide 15. Just as you can join subjects with a fanboy and or, you can also join verbs. I can't tell if Jane washed or cut her hair. Two verbs, two actions here, washing and cutting. Jane washed or cut. You can join them, no comma. Next one, same thing for compound objects. If you've got more than one object, and that can be a direct object, an indirect object, object of a preposition, you can join them with and or if there's more than one, and you don't need a comma. Now, the last one here, this is where you do need a comma. If it's not a compound subject or compound verb or compound object, but a compound sentence, which is what you call two independent clauses joined by a comma and a fanboy, you do have to have the comma. All right, now there's a whole lot of other slides in No Red Ink for these lessons, but mostly they're just duplicates or reviews of what we've already learned. So you've got what's important. If you have any questions, as always, contact me on Hangouts.